What's up, guys? I'm Jack, and I don't know where Daisy is right now. Daisy, come here. Come here. There you are. Oh, you're basking in the sun. How's it going, Daisy? And welcome to another Elden Ring video. So my last video, beating Elden Ring with only a sunflower, was awesome. I had so much fun. And after that, I put up a poll to see what people would want to see next, and it seemed like a lot of people wanted to see a Saint Trina themed run. So I started to gather the gear for that. I found a cool outfit, and actually while I was looking for outfits, I found a bear, and well, I got the pelt of Ralva from it, and I thought that looked awesome, and I was like, oh my god, there are literal bear claws in this game. And I decided that instead of doing a Saint Trina run right now, I wanted to become a bear. Yeah, so that'll be next week. Next week's might even be more special because I was thinking about doing Saint Trina and Miquella. And what I'm thinking is doing 2 runs back to back, one with Saint Trina themed gear and another with Miquella themed gear, and seeing which one does better. Because, you know, they're the same person, so hopefully I can have that out by next week, but of course it'll require me doing 2 playthroughs of the DLC, so maybe I'll just space it out into 2 separate videos. I'm not sure yet. I'll figure it out. Either way, I grabbed all of the bear gear, the bear claws, the bear helmet, the bear outfit, the bear incantation. And since the bear claw is, well, it's a very quick weapon, so you hit a lot of successive attacks. I wanted to get some of the, you know, successive attacks, boost attack power, talismans. So the first one I went after, of course, was Millicent's prosthesis, and I decided to just do Millicent's entire quest line for this. I know that you can just, like, take her out as soon as you give her the prosthetic arm right here, or, well, as soon as you defeat the gods can duo with her. But, I mean, I just wanted to do the whole quest line, because why not? So yeah, I went all over the lands between. Thankfully, this was before I started a new game plus for this bear playthrough, so I had all the sites of grace already. I beat Millicent up and then stole her prosthetic arm, and then we finished up the game doing the Golden Order ending.
Tell a story of how a tarnished became Elden Lord. The Age of Order.
And yeah, if you couldn't tell, this is quite literally right after I finished the Sunflower playthrough. So I went back to Renala before starting the next playthrough, and I wanted to change my name. At first I was just thinking Bear, but that was stupid, so I named him Bosco.
He's taking all the good stuff! Quiet! You don't know what I had to do to get seats this near the bear!
And I wish I had gone with an Earth King look for my character, but I decided to make him look like a cool Viking instead, but I think the Earth King would have been pretty funny. Maybe next time. Now, as you can imagine, the early game was pretty easy. The bear claws are very strong. They do a lot of damage, especially the Ash of War, which is honestly really, really good, especially for any bleed builds or multi-hit builds. And I, of course, tried to keep my vigor low for the entirety of this run. And believe it or not, I actually managed to keep my vigor below 40 for everything. Except for Radahn, of course. And this run gets really, really, really interesting. If you don't stick around for any of my other runs, I would recommend watching this one in its entirety. Because some crazy stuff happens. For example, and without spoiling anything, I may or may not have lost 7 hours of footage and had to get all of it back. So, yeah. Regardless, since we're doing a bear animal type run, I decided to do the Deathroot questline with the beast clergyman right here. Because why not? Oh, I never went over the rules. So of course, I have to be in bear outfit the entire time. I have to use either Beast Claws or the Roar of Rugalea only for bosses. I do use the other Beast Claw just to test out the Ash of War for like one boss. No summons, except Igon, of course. I have to complete all DLC remembrance bosses. I have to complete the death root quest in the main game. And I have to keep low vigor for as long as I possibly can. In this case, I did it until Radahn. So yeah, you're going to see me taking out a bunch of random bosses here and there for some death root. And that's for Malekith's Beast Clergyman quest. So just want to get that done because it really just fits with the theme of the run. So yeah, those are the rules. Yeah, so basically every boss in the early game just falls over whenever we try to paw them with our big bear claws. And I mean, it makes sense. Have you ever fought a rune bear in this game? They can take out like 90% of the bosses on their own. Those things are insane. I imagine if anybody got pawed by one of those things in real life, they would just be red mist. So I make my way through the academy and I run into Moongrim up here and I instantly get parried and then one shot by him. That sounds about right, yeah. So I made my way back up to Moongrim, intent on getting my revenge, but well, it didn't go too well this time either. Yeah, he just parried and one shot me again, so yay, Moongrim. This time though, I was ready. I put my buckler on, and I was ready to get some sick buckler parries on Moongrim right here, just to get some revenge. So I parried and riposted him a couple times, and then he was dead. Oh, Moongrim. I don't know why he always takes me out in like every single one of my runs. I just never learn. Renala though, as you can imagine, went by very quickly. I didn't even need to use the Ash of War to get very quick one phase on her. And the second phase was much the same because it only took a minute to get her into the lowest health possible and then just run up to her and hit her one more time to finish off Renala. And yeah, I am skipping through the bosses very quickly, but that's because they're super easy with this build right now, and this is more so about the DLC than it is about the main game. So I do make it to Altus Plateau. I take out the Tibia Mariner here, and then I go to the, oh my god, Gelmir Hero's Grave over here. I get murdered, and then I do manage to find the boss at the end of this dungeon, and I grab the death root here. So that brings us up to 6 out of 9 that we need, and we get attacked by the Beast Clergyman when we arrive to give him this new set of death root. We take him out pretty quickly, and he begs for his life, as he should, and then, you know, he gives us some rewards for giving him some more death root. Next up is Radahn, and I love this Radahn fight. This is so sick. His moveset is really cool, and it's fair. It's not absolutely ridiculous like one of the DLC bosses. And I do a very solid and respectable amount of damage to him, but he also does a good amount of damage to us too, so I think it's a very good fight. It's very fair for how much vigor we have and how much damage we do. I love fighting him solo too. For like the first 5 or 6 playthroughs, I summoned a lot of spirits when I would fight Radahn, but after I learned to, you know, actually fight him and learned his moveset a bit, I just had so much more fun fighting him solo. I would recommend giving it a try if you haven't. Now, we took down Radahn pretty quickly, and we made our way to Morgott in quick succession, and it wasn't too long before he was in the red as well. So, with only one more swipe from our mighty bear claw, Morgott had also fallen. And that's the last main boss that we need to beat in order to get the last death root. So we make our way into the mountaintops of the giants, defeat this ulcerated tree spear right here and grab a death root from it. And this is where I'm using the other beast claw, by the way. The Ash of War is pretty sick, but it doesn't do too much damage. So I didn't really end up using it too much throughout the rest of the run. Regardless, we do grab the death root right here. And then we grab another from this Tibia Mariner down here. And you guys can see this is like a somewhat late game area, I would say. And we still absolutely destroy the Tibia Mariner right here. So you can tell how good the beast claws are, well, the bear claws are. And with that, that's 8 out of 9 death roots. The last one that we need is on our way to the consecrated snowfield. And in order to get there, we're going to need both sides of the secret Erdtree medallion. So one of them we get from Commander Nile, who is actually right next to us. and then the other one we get from the Albinauric village in Liurnia of the Lakes. On my way, I do a terrible jump and end up falling to my death, which, yeah, that's pretty on brand, and then drop off the other 2 death roots that I just got in the Bestial Sanctum right here. At first, I was going to use the incantations that I got from the Beast Clergyman, because I thought that it fit with the theme of the run, but the Bear Claws are just so much better, so I just didn't use them, like, ever. But yeah, I grabbed the secret Erdtree medallions and made my way to the Grand Lift of Rold, where we get to the secret passage to the consecrated snowfield. That was a lot. And I finally grabbed the last death root and turn it into the Beast Clergyman, and he just gives us an ancient dragon smithing stone, a somber ancient dragon smithing stone to be exact. And since we're already in the consecrated snowfield, that means I don't need to do Vare's quest line in order to get to Moog, and I can just go through the teleporter there and run all the way to Moog right here. Now you can see that the timer reset, which kind of sucks. It does that sometimes. I don't know why, but I don't expect this to be a very long Moog fight. Again, we just do a substantial amount of damage. Oh, actually, that's not that good. And we do take a bit of damage from him as well. Maybe this won't go as well as I thought it would. It's fine, we can still get him first try, as long as we bleed him a bit. Yeah, the Bear Claws, by the way, do bleed damage, though it's not that much. It's, I think it starts at like 45 bleed when it's maxed out, if you don't have high arcane, so it's like not great bleed damage, but it is bleed nonetheless, and bleed is always appreciated. So the Bear Claws excel when you do rapid attacks with the light attacks. I found that to be very, very successful when I was using them. Ow. As well as the Ash of War, which is really, really good. So the heavy attacks, they're still solid, but I just found the light attacks and the Ash of War to be better. Now, the main problem with the Bear Claws is that they don't really do too much poise damage. Now, the heavy jump attacks are good for dealing poise damage, I'll give you that, but they're also inconsistent to hit bosses with, because it does 2 swipes, like, you know, consecutively, and a lot of the time I noticed that one of those swipes was just completely missing, and I was just dealing significantly less damage than I would have if I did a jumping light attack or used the Ash of War or basically anything else. Now, after dying to Moog a few times, we do manage to get this run where we just absolutely melted his health, and it wasn't too long after that before we managed to finish him off and finally get into the DLC. And it didn't really take us too long considering we did an entire quest line and most of the main game, so not bad at all. Now, on to Radahn, the final boss of the DLC. Yeah, so I lost my entire playthrough up until Radahn, and also the first 2 hours of my attempts at Radahn. So this was the morning after I had completed the DLC, and the DLC took me about 5 hours to complete, and then another 2 hours of Radahn attempts after that. So I played for about 7 hours, and all that footage just gone. Of course, I didn't beat Radahn on my first attempt the next morning, or my second, or my 100th. Let's check in a couple hours. So, 3 hours later, and I only got him down to about halfway before I died. Well, let's skip ahead a bit again. Another hour, and that's pretty close. And I still have some healing in this attempt, so this might not go too poorly. But I'm sure you guys already guessed, because if I'm showing you just the ending of it rather than the entire fight, that means that I did not win this one. So, yeah. I was managing to get him into his second phase nearly every single attempt. I think I have his first phase down pat by now. I can most of the time get it without taking even a single hit, which is pretty great, though of course a lot of the times I do take a couple hits and have to heal up. But yeah, his second phase is the only thing that is giving me problems at this point. and it sucks. I have the best time fighting Radahn when I have a weapon that does poise damage, and I had never gotten a single poise break in my entire, so far, 6 hours of fighting Radahn. And even though these weapons do bleed damage, in that 6 hours I had never gotten a single bleed proc either. But I did get some good attempts where I got him very close. The Ash of War was my best friend during this, and I would save most of my FP for phase 2 so that I could activate Lord's Divine Fortification to get that holy damage resistance, as well as save the FP for just using the Ash of War in the second phase. And again, by the way, I did the entire DLC with like 25 to 35 vigor, only to get to Radahn and get absolutely destroyed, hence why I now have 99 vigor. But yeah, this was easily my best attempt, where I got him down to quite literally one hit before he destroyed me, and that destroyed me both physically and mentally, and I wanted to cry. That was very, very rough. Let's check in another couple hours. So 3 hours later, and we're back to only doing about half of his health. And each attempt was taking probably 4 to 6 minutes, 8 minutes on a really good run. And I'm not going to do the math to figure out how many attempts I did, but it was a lot. Quite literally an entire day wasted just fighting Radahn. So finally at 8 hours and 10 minutes, I decided that I needed to finally fully upgrade my flasks because, well, they weren't fully upgraded. And I decided to sell all of the remembrances to get some extra runes for just a few more valuable levels. So, sold all the remembrances, got a bunch of runes, and leveled up my mind a few times just because I wanted some extra FP. I thought that might be helpful. The rest of my stats were pretty good, so after that, I buffed my Golden Vow. Then I actually rest at the Site of Grace before each fight to get the FP back, because yeah, I need all the healing I can get, and also all the FP I get, and Golden Vow stays after you rest. So use that. I use my Flask of Wondrous Physic, Flame grant me strength, and now it's time for the fight. And this was my first attempt after fully upgrading my flasks, by the way, and this was actually the winning run as well. So again, phase 1 really didn't give me too many issues. I still got hit occasionally, but I usually only needed to use a single healing flask throughout the entirety of phase 1. Thankfully, the Ash of War on the Bear Claws is actually quite quick to activate, as well as the jump attacks and the light attacks. So there were a lot of openings that I could take advantage of, especially in phase 1. The best opening that Radahn has, I think, is actually right here. It's where he does this overhead slam and then brings up the ground in front of him. I could usually get 2 jump attacks off on him right there, which is very nice, and that's also a really good opening. Anytime he just does a ground slam, like, that's usually a pretty good opening. So it was nighttime by the time I was finishing up this fight, and you know, it was pretty late, so I decided to go to bed right after this, and I quite literally was seeing the Radahn fight in my mind for like 2 hours as I was trying to sleep. Like, unwillingly, it was just appearing in my head, the dodging and his attacks, and in my head picturing, I had never gotten a single attack off on him. I was just dodging and running for my life from him. So, yeah. Now, at this point, I was getting pretty good at phase 2 as well, and I had found a few openings. Again, that overhead slam attack is his best opening, I think, except for maybe his grab attack, because that is very easy to dodge. I also learned that a lot of his attacks, like that one, can be dodged if you dodge backwards and to the right a bit. So I did really learn a lot during this fight, and I have a much better grasp of the Radahn fight, and I think the next time, if I have a better weapon, this fight will go very, very, very quickly, and I don't think I'll have too many problems. And that's not to say the Bear Claws are bad by any means, just like a weapon that does more damage per swing. And I suppose it would help to not be in New Game Plus when fighting Radahn. That could be why it took so long. Regardless, yeah, this is a good run so far. I still have most of my healing flasks and still have a lot of FP. I got some good attacks off. And I was taking some hits, but as long as I didn't die right here, we can recover. It's also really important to choose the right time to drink your healing flask during this fight. So the same little attack opportunities that you can get in Ash of War often, just use that to heal if you're below half health. Don't risk it, just heal up and then take the next attack opportunity to hit him. So like anytime he does this grab attack, you can heal up a little bit. Anytime he does the overhead slam, you can heal or get an attack off. And that's always what I did when I was below half health. So yeah, there's a lot of nuances to this fight. And the more I do it, the more I genuinely appreciate it. And I hate to say that because this fight is so difficult. And it took me literally 10 hours with a good build. But yeah. Oh, so that's another attack that you can dodge by going backwards and to the right. And I hate that attack so much. It's so inconsistent. I usually get hit by it regardless, no matter where I dodge. But it's fine. Now, at this point in the run, I was starting to think that this might not be the winning attempt because, well, I was taking a decent amount of damage and I was going through my healing flasks pretty quickly. But, I mean, you never know, so I kept going a little bit further. And, well, I used my healing at the wrong time. That's okay though, because I still had Lord's Divine Fortification active, which meant that his big holy attack barely did any damage to us. That being said, I was down to 4 healing flasks already, and he wasn't even in his third phase. And I kept getting hit by attacks that I knew how to dodge, which also wasn't great. And I was convinced that this attack right here was going to kill me. I don't know why, I just didn't think I was going to be able to escape quick enough. But thankfully, I managed to avoid all of his attacks, and then get hit by his giant meteor charge attack, so that was great. I also needed to find time to refill my FP before he absolutely murked me, so I did manage to get that quick FP refilling opportunity off, and then I got some Ashes of War off during one of those combos, and took quite a few hits, and I thought it was over. I managed to escape and heal up one more time, and I was down to 1 more healing flask. Thankfully, he used his grab attack, which is very easy to dodge, and I got 1 more Ash of War off, and still took a few hits, but we're okay. As long as I can escape this, okay, it's fine. We're out of healing, but we have most of our health. I reactivated Lord's Divine Fortification, because why not? And it's this meteor attack, okay. Again, even though I have a pretty decent strategy on how to dodge it, that being rolling backwards and to the left as quickly as I could, it was still pretty inconsistent, and I still got hit by it most of the time. Now, this was also the best run that I had gotten in a while, so I was like sweating so hard and so anxious. I was like, please God, let me finish this. And thankfully he used the overhead slam, which I can dodge pretty easily. I got a few more Ashes of War off, and using the grab attack sealed his fate. Radahn was finally finished. Thank God. If you remember the DLC, well, I guess you don't remember, you weren't there for that, but it took me 5 hours to complete the DLC, and 10 hours to beat Radahn. God. And since I lost all of that footage, that meant I needed to do it all over again. Now, I'm not fighting Radahn again with this build, especially not in New Game Plus 3 or 4, whatever this is. But I will finish up the base game and then knock out as many DLC bosses as I can. Yeah, so I'm not gonna do another low vigor run with this build for the DLC, just because that took me forever. And it was so much better. It was so much more interesting with low vigor, but I just can't after having lost all of that footage. I'm sorry, I wish you guys could have seen the DLC run with low vigor with this build, but like, no, not again. So I'm just gonna stick with 99 vigor for the rest of this run because God, I need a win. And as you can imagine, the God skins were pretty easy with this build. Thankfully in the base game it still does incredible. So yeah, they were not an issue whatsoever. Though Malekith was, even with max vigor, he managed to take me down probably 3 or 4 times before I finished him off. And if you guys didn't know,
Why wouldst thou? Why? Distant death shall not be stolen.
yeah, Malekith actually has some special dialogue that he gives you if you do his death request before you fight him here, and it's really interesting because he seems betrayed almost. Like, he doesn't want to fight you, but he has to. And I think it adds a bit of depth to his character, and, well, I like it. I thought that was really cool. Unfortunately, we have to finish off Malekith right here and keep moving. Now, of course, Gideon is next, and, well, Gideon's always a fun boss fight. As is Hoaraloo right here. And I really like fighting Hoaraloo with this build and like the bear aesthetic, because it feels like we're fighting him beast to beast, you know? Giant, shirtless, shredded lion man versus a slightly smaller bear man. But, you know. Regardless, we still beat him to a bloody pulp, and then we move on to Radahn and the Elden Beast, which I imagine won't be too difficult. Yeah, so physical damage is generally pretty good against Radahn and the Elden Beast, and we entirely do physical damage, so should be a pretty easy fight. I was a little bit out of practice with Radahn, but I was doing a little bit better than I thought I would. I thought I would just get smacked around for the first minute or two while I was relearning his moveset, but as you can see, it wasn't nearly that bad. I did get hit a few times, but not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to go. Now, I was still pretty confident regardless, because we're at 99 vigor plus that Radahn's Great Rune, which vastly increases our vigor as well. So we don't really have too much to worry about here. Now, this still changes in the DLC because, well, it's New Game Plus 3 or 4, I forgot which one. But yeah, that means the bosses are still pretty difficult, and I did die a lot in the DLC even with max vigor. So, that being said, it did take me significantly less time to complete the DLC with max vigor than it did with like 30 vigor. Our Ash of War was doing some pretty massive damage to Radahn, so it wasn't too long before he was taken care of, and that just left the Elden Beast before we could reset and get back into the DLC. Ugh, sorry for complaining so much, but that was a real kick to the knackers just to lose all of that footage, especially when I put so much effort into a low vigor run for that, but it is what it is. Now you guys get to see a speed run of the DLC at least. Yeah, basically, you know, since I decided I wasn't going to do low vigor again, I was like, okay, after this, I'm just going to go as quickly as I possibly can and see how fast I can complete the DLC with this rule set. And it worked out pretty well. As for the Elden Beast, well, the Ash of War from these Bear Claws did really, really solid damage. Again, it's a great Ash of War, especially when enemies are susceptible to bleed damage. The Elden Beast, of course, is not, but it still does really well regardless. Now, he spent a good amount of time just like running around and trying to escape our wrath, which is why I keep skipping ahead during this fight. But eventually we do manage to catch up and just spam the Ash of War for a bit before we run out of FP. And then we just use our light attacks to get the majority of our final damage off against the Elden Beast. And it's absolutely insane how much more difficult Radahn is than Radahn and the Elden Beast, in my opinion at least. Yeah, it's crazy. I love it, and I hate it, but I love it, and I hate it. And the Elden Beast is down, which means we can go ahead and get to the DLC again, and it only took me an hour. And again, I was trying to speedrun this as quickly as I could, so it only took me an hour and 6 minutes to get back to Moog in a New Game Plus. And to get to Radahn, I did the first part of Ronnie's quest line, and to get to Moog, of course, I did Vari's quest line, and I didn't really do any stops in between that. Though I think I did take out Godric. I don't know if I had to, but I did do that, so I don't know. I was just going the quickest route that I thought I had to do. I don't know if it actually was the quickest route, but yeah. Moog was a lot easier this time. It is so helpful to not be one-shot by all of his attacks, so we managed to survive a lot longer, get a bunch of Ashes of War off, and take him down very, very quickly. And finally, we are back in the DLC, and this time the footage actually saved, so you guys can see my journey through speedrunning this DLC. And yeah, if you didn't know, I'm sure you guys already knew, like, I don't know why I'm even bothering saying this, but in order to access it, you need to defeat Radahn, as well as Moog. Those are the only two requirements, basically. And with that, I was prepared for the next day of recording, and since it was getting pretty late, I decided to make some dinner. Now, I did record a whole section of me making this really fun soup called Tuscan bread soup, and I was gonna put that in the video just for like a random break/adventure, but honestly, I want to get something more crazy and interesting for the next one. I didn't do anything too crazy this week, but hopefully for the next video, I'll find something really random and fun for my adventure section. But yeah, if you didn't know, the bread soup is really good, really easy to make. It's basically just sauteed onions and garlic on the bottom. Then you add some vegetable stock and water, and you put some crushed tomatoes in. You get some fresh tomatoes from the store and quite literally just rip them apart with your bare hands. Get it? Bare hands. Because I have bare hands. That was terrible. And then after that, you let that cook for a bit, and then you add some fresh bread. But you have to toast the bread, so you add like olive oil and salt before you put it in the oven, so you make it into bruschetta. And then you add that to the soup, and then it's basically done. Plus a bunch of random herbs and spices, of course. It's quite good and very, very filling. So I'm very grateful to have some leftovers. So it only took us 8 minutes to get to the Divine Beast Dancing Lion, and it only took us another minute or so to actually defeat the Divine Beast Dancing Lion. Again, when a boss can take bleed damage from these claws, the bleed buildup is pretty quick when you use the Ash of War, and well, since it does a really good amount of base damage as well, a lot of bosses kind of just fall when you start spamming the Ash of War. And the Divine Beast Dancing Lion, of course, is a prime example of that, as she really didn't do too much to us before we just spammed her into oblivion. Now, even with low vigor, this one was still, I forgot if it was first or second try, but either first or second try it took me to beat him, just because, you know, Divine Beast Dancing Lion doesn't have a lot of health, and while it does have some really annoying attacks, they're pretty easy to dodge and read, so it didn't take me too long to finish her off in my original run as well. Though again, with 99 vigor, I didn't really have to worry about being careful, and I could just go in there and spam my stuff and not worry about dying, so I was, again, just trying to do this as quickly as I could possibly do it, and that just led me to using the Ash of War a bunch. Next up is Rolana, and well, this one actually gave me some difficulty, but regardless, the order in which I took down these bosses was completely random. I just did it, you know, whatever I was feeling at the time, and it doesn't have any order, any particular order. But I made my way through the castle and took out all of the enemies on the way, because otherwise they would catch up and probably murk me, which isn't fun. And I found my way to the Site of Grace, and it only took me about 10 minutes to get from the Divine Beast Dancing Lion all the way to the Rolana fight. And I decided to put on the Spelldrake Talisman +2 just for some extra magic resist, because why not? And buffed up before I entered the fight. So in general, I did have some trouble with some of the bosses, of course, but in general, this was so much quicker than any of my previous playthroughs of the DLC, and I think that's for a couple of reasons. The first one, and the most important reason, is the high vigor. Having high vigor and max Erdtree fragments already is just so helpful. It makes everything so much easier. But not just that, I think it was also the mindset. I'd come into this particular DLC playthrough with the mindset of, I'm going to finish this as quickly as I possibly can. I'm going to go into these boss arenas and absolutely maul everything in my path. And this is opposed to most of my playthroughs, which are more so like, okay, I have to be careful and think about which talismans I'm using, and I have to be careful about when I attack, and I can't go too fast or else I'll die. And normally I'd be completely fine with dying a bunch to get some good footage and to add to the challenge, especially if I'm doing a low vigor run. Whereas again, in this playthrough, I'm just like, okay, I'm going to beat these guys to a freaking pulp and move on as quickly as I can. So I think it was the mindset of, I'm going to win, not I hope I win. That helped me out a bunch. Being confident in your abilities genuinely has an effect on how you play. At least to my belief. Now for Rolana, it wasn't too long before we got her down pretty low, and only a few more Ashes of War would be necessary in order to finish her off. I almost died there. Thank God I didn't, or else that would have been another couple-minute fight, but I mean, high vigor, am I right? And it is pretty crazy that even with max Erdtree fragments and max vigor and pretty decent armor, these bosses are still doing enough damage to almost two-shot me. Next up, I went over to Ymir to do the Mother of Fingers questline and just get that boss out of the way. And then instead of doing that boss, I decided to go to the Shadowkeep back gate through the church district and unflood the flooded district. So I unflooded the church, and after that, I wasn't sure if I was going to do the sunflowers or go for the Mother of Fingers questline, the Finger Runes of Deo, or do, what's his name, Commander Gaius. So I kind of just let my fingers decide where to go. And I guess I chose the sunflower. That was a very weird phrase. I regret saying that, but I don't feel like trying to find something else to say. So, yeah, on to the Erdtree avatar. Again, my favorite boss design in the game, by far. And believe it or not, I think these guys gave me the most trouble out of any boss throughout this entire run. Other than Radahn, of course. It actually was pretty hard to hit them with the Ash of War, just because it doesn't have a huge hitbox, and these guys would like lift their little sunflower heads up a bunch. So trying to hit their heads was pretty difficult. I also just like didn't realize this move hit multiple times. And I ended up dying to that little giant sun blast like 3 times because I'm stupid. And yeah, this took me a little while, somehow. It's fine though. I guess in the past I had never really learned their moveset too well, just because, well, they're not very tanky, and if you have any sort of fire damage, they just fall over. So normally you can just melt them before you have to even learn their moves. By the way, I said this in the last video, but every time you take out one of the avatars, you can repost their big sunflower head, and that'll do some damage to the next one that comes up. So if you guys didn't know that, there you go. Yeah, eventually I did manage to take out the first one pretty easily. Again, the first one has the lowest health pool, so super easy to take out. The second one has a much higher health pool and some more annoying attacks. Definitely the most difficult out of the 3. But I decided to start attacking its roots rather than its big head, just because that was more consistent to hit, and that helped out a bunch. And eventually I got it low enough to take it out, but I was running out of FP. Which, I mean, that's fine. The light attacks do a solid amount of damage as well. The Ash of War is just significantly better. Also, side note, even though this run was incredibly frustrating with the whole 10-hour Radahn fight and then having to re-record everything, I started up a playthrough of the DLC with Corey. This is his first DLC playthrough. And I actually, like, forgot the builds that I was using and, like, what weapons I enjoyed. Just because it's been so long since I've played on my normal character and done a normal playthrough with things that I enjoy. And I just ended up choosing the bear claws. Like, I don't know why. But these things are fun. Like, I just spent nearly 24 hours playing with them. And I still went straight back to them in a completely normal playthrough just because they're good and they're fun and the moveset is cool. And I like the outfit that comes with it too. Though I think as a weapon, I like the big sunflower weapon a little bit better, personally. But the bear claws and the bear outfit, top tier. So much fun. Yeah, sunflowers were dealt with, and it's kind of funny. If you look at it from this angle, it actually just looks like a bear. Right? Right? Okay. Anyway, I was going to head over to Commander Gaius, and then I was like, no, I don't want to do this right now, so I grabbed the storeroom first floor side of Grace, and then headed on over to the ancient ruins of Wrath. And also, fun fact, if you guys didn't know, you can go through the church district and up the elevator there, and you can get into the storeroom first floor without ever having to fight that giant stupid hippopotamus. So I'm always doing that from now on because I despise the golden hippopotamus. And before long, we make it over to Ramana, and I did die on my first attempt, and I think my second attempt as well, just because I got Scarlet Rotted. But you know what they say, third time's the charm, and it pretty much was. We were doing some good damage with our Ash of War, of course, and actually we weren't doing good damage. That's not good damage against Ramana. I've seen so much better. But we were doing enough damage with our Ash of War. This is a good weapon to fight Ramana with overall, just because of how close you need to be for it. I've said this in my last video, but Ramana is a great boss for close range. If you try a medium range weapon or like some spells from medium range, she's just going to close the gap or send her little centipede up to smack you in the face, and it's just not a good time. Yeah, she's just really good at closing the gap, honestly. So I would recommend always staying close range for her, especially because a lot of her attacks will just outright miss, even if you don't dodge, if you're right next to her. And it was honestly pretty slow going as far as boss fights go in this run, but we did manage to get her down pretty low eventually, and as long as we stayed close to her, we were pretty safe. Also, it's like hurricane season where I am right now. We just had a big hurricane last week and that was fun, and we're about to have another one like this week too. That was pretty crazy. I love hurricane season here just because everybody like freaks out and it's kind of funny to watch. That probably came off as insensitive. If it was a bad hurricane, that'd be one thing, but usually they're not bad. It's just like a little bit of rain and some wind. But anyway, I love it because, you know, I love surfing and the waves get big during hurricane season and they never get big the rest of the year. And I made my way to the Cerulean coast. Love this place. So beautiful. I will always point that out. It's amazing and perfect, and I love it, and it's cool. And we're going into the Deepstone Crypt next. I know that's not its real name, but shh. Yeah, once we get down here, we're going to fight the Putrescent Knight, and the Putrescent Knight doesn't have a giant health pool. And I had taken him out very quickly in my first attempt at this playthrough, so I was not at all worried about this fight. I thought it was just going to go super quick and easy, and it did. It did, yeah. I buffed up using Flame Grant Me Strength and Golden Bow and my Wondrous Physic, and you know, if you guys look in my incantations, I still have the Roar of Rugalea equipped. I did use that a lot in my first playthrough, just to switch it up a bit. Again, it's a great incantation. It has some really solid range. It's just not nearly as good as just the Bear Claws on their own. Also, paid no attention to all of my fumbling right there. Yeah, just don't watch that. Don't think about it. No, I went for some light attacks at first, and those did fine damage. But of course, the Ash of War is really what shines in this weapon, just due to how many times it hits, and just the general good damage potential of it. And this was actually a pretty epic fight. Towards the end, I had run out of healing completely, and I was on like my last legs, and somehow I managed to squeak out a victory. First try, baby. I'm not proud of that run, actually. I got hit so many times. That was not very skillful. But regardless, it was time to do the finger ruins this time for realsies. And I started off with the one near the Cerulean coast, the finger ruins of Rhea. And after that, I was going to head over to the finger ruins of Deo and ring that bell, and then do the Mother of Fingers. So instead of doing that, I went straight to Midra, the Lord of Frenzied Flame, after a very long journey to Midra's Manse, and it took forever, but eventually we made it there. And, well, I mean, look at that. He didn't stand a chance. Poor little monkey. But yeah, Midra is a great boss, and I love him. And also, he takes bleed damage, and I don't think he's weak to it, but he's not resistant to physical damage. So needless to say, the Bear Claws freaking killed it here. This was hands down by far my quickest Midra fight ever. I remember the first time I fought him, I nearly had as much trouble with him as I did with Radahn. Actually, it took me longer to defeat Midra than Radahn, but that's because I used to spirit summon for Radahn, and also the big freaking bleed hammer thing, the new weapon, I forgot what it's called, Blood Fiend's arm. Yeah, before they nerfed it. Yeah, so I cheesed the hell out of Radahn on my first playthrough. Just so you guys are aware, I'm not actually that good at this game. But Midra has always had a place in my heart, because I love his moveset. It's very fun to dance around, and once you get into the groove of things, it's awesome and fun and cool, and the Frenzied Flame is a cool color, and he's dead. I also love the intro of the fight where you beat up that little monk dude, Midra, of course. I think it's really funny, though I do wish that only happened the first time and that you didn't have to do that every single time that you tried to fight him. Next up, I went to Scatterview to do the Finger Ruins of Deo, and this place is beautiful, like most of the DLC. But the Finger Ruins of Deo are one of my least favorite places in the game because of this. It makes me so angry. Not being able to move is one of the most frustrating things in any video game. So not being able to move and then being attacked by a freaking weird worm thing that comes out of nowhere and eats your face, like, ugh. Ugh. So we ring the bell, and then I go over to Jagged Peak to fight Bale. He got baited again. I only did this because I wanted to bait you and I thought it would be funny. And I've just now realized that it wasn't actually that funny, but, you know, it is what it is.
You will rue this day! Behold, a true great warrior, and I, Igon, your fear made flesh. Solid of scale you might be, and I will riddle with holes your rotten mind with a hail of harpoons, with every last drop of my being.
Igon is the best. Frickin', I love this dude. So similar to the Sunflowers, Bale was actually somewhat difficult, just because I had a hard time hitting his head with my Ash of War. Plus, he just liked to move around a bunch, and he would dodge my attacks very frequently, which eventually led to me dying. Right near the end, yeah. I was probably one Ash of War away from taking him down, but second try's the charm, that is what they say, isn't it? And I go for his Rotten Leg, I get a sick Poise Break, which allows us to do so much damage to him, and this goes so much better than my first attempt. I still get hit a bunch, because sometimes I'm bad at dodging and not very good at this game. But we do get him pretty low, and we have a bunch of healing left and a bunch of FP flasks, so overall, this was a pretty good attempt. And honestly, I kind of wish Bale was harder than Radahn. Like, Radahn is terrifying. You know, if I saw him in person and he was trying to come at me, I would die of fright, but Bale, I think, is a totally different kind of terrifying. And I think it would have been cool if he was like the hardest boss in the game, you know, just because of how giant and scary he is, and he's not as hard as he should be, honestly, in my opinion. And we run into the Sword Hand of Night Anna, and I'm showing this clip just because, well, I don't have too many like NPC or tarnished fights in this, and you guys need to see how this weapon does against like NPCs and stuff, and it's pretty good once you can start staggering them. And the Ash of War like traps them a little bit, so it's very good. And in general, if you just spam the light attacks against the NPCs, they get staggered and they can't really do anything, so that's pretty solid. As for against players, it's not nearly as good. Other players are great at using spells and like medium ranged stuff, so it's kind of hard to get close to them and actually fight them. Now finally we do, of course, make it to the Mother of Fingers. And this time, I swear to God, I'm not joking, we actually fight her. And we've already had some pretty easy fights in this playthrough, though this might be the easiest. Just look at the damage. The damage. We're absolutely melting this cow. And she's susceptible to bleed damage, so once we get that bleed proc, like, she's done for. This is a really easy fight for the claws. Like, genuinely, they're very good against this boss. Yeah, look at that. Also, I love the staff that she drops from her remembrance. It's the one that allows you to cast incantations and spells from it. So it's pretty cool. It doesn't have the highest scaling, of course, because, you know, it's supposed to be a jack of all trades rather than, you know, the best in the game for everything. But I just like not having to swap over, so it's nice for me. Plus, in general, like, my build for most playthroughs is, like Prince of Death staff build, like with intellect and faith, and I used to use the Sword of Night and Flame a lot, so it was like a mixed faith and intellect build, and I used a lot of incantations and spells. I don't do that too much anymore, but that staff would have been perfect for that. Anyway, Mother of Fingers is taken care of, and that just leaves 2 bosses. My god, that was fast. There's Mesmer and Gaius, and I guess it would make sense to leave Mesmer for the final boss, just because, like, you know, he's the big one that was in front of the DLC. He was, like, I thought he was going to be the final boss when I saw the trailer, but then he wasn't. But since I despise Commander Gaius and his moveset, and he's my least favorite boss except for the Golden Hippopotamus, I decided to save him for last and just take care of Mesmer first. And this is by far the quickest I've done the DLC. So far we're less than 3 hours and we only have 2 bosses left. Is that, I don't know if that's fast in like speedrun groups or anything. I'm sure it's not. Like, this is very unoptimal, but it's fast for me, okay? Yeah, let me know if that's actually a decent timer or not. I am genuinely curious. That being said, if we count Radahn as well, it would be like 13 hours. So that's definitely not fast. I know that for a fact. So Mesmer, in my first attempt when I was still low vigor, I actually beat him first try. And that was really surprising for me. I think I just got really lucky because he used a lot of attacks with good windows to punish him, and that were very easy to dodge. Plus, the bear claws do great damage against him, so I think I got lucky more so than, you know, skill in my previous attempt. But this one was also very quick and very easy also on the first attempt, but that's just because I had high vigor and I could tank everything that he was throwing at me. But I think I got some decent dodges in here and there. The Ash of War really is the star of the show here. It just does so much damage to everything. And I would highly recommend trying out the bear claws. Like, they're really, really fun. And you get it from the Northern Nameless Mausoleum, if I remember correctly. And you have to go through like the raw base. I don't know how to pronounce that. And yeah, it's not too hard to get. You can get that like from the start of the game. You just need to be a little boss that's dressed like I am with the whole bear outfit and the bear claws. It's not too difficult. But you get the bear headgear from a different bear. You get that from Ralva. And she's also, you can get that from the start of the game, but this boss is a little bit more difficult and very tanky. though the bears are very, very susceptible to sleep. So if you have either of St. Trina's swords, those work so well against them. Or like sleep pots too. Anyway, again, Mesmer was a first try with all this extra vigor. And that just left one more boss. Commander Gaius, my greatest enemy, other than Radahn perhaps. And as annoying as fighting Radahn for 10 hours was, fighting Commander Gaius for even 30 minutes makes my blood boil. And I can't really tell you what it is about Gaius. I guess it's his jerky moveset and his delayed attacks that just makes me so angry, but I just don't like him as a boss. I just really don't. Yes. Ugh. Hi Daisy, what's up? That's what you sound like. Wee! Wee! Daisy. Hang on, you guys gotta see this. She plays fetch like a dog. And she knocks stuff over and breaks everything in my house and destroys my life, but she's so cute, and I love her. She's basically Dog the cat. It's great. Anyway, Commander Gaius, this guy's stupid. I don't like him. And guys, this video is sponsored by me, because I don't have any sponsors yet, so if you want to subscribe, that would be really, really cool. I would like that. But if you don't, that's totally fine. Your viewership is always enough for me, and I truly mean that. And thank you for watching. Really, if you made it this far, thank you so much. Now, I'm gonna leave you guys to the rest of this fight without my annoying voice, and yeah, enjoy. And with one final smack from our mighty bear claw, Commander Gaius has fallen, and we've successfully completed the DLC once more. Well, we still have to fight Radahn, but I'm not doing that again. And guys, again, thank you so much for watching. and have a good one.